Hi, everybody. It is Thursday, so you know what's happening. This is another day where we talk about truth to power, speaking truth to power. And I am Joyce Elliott.
I'm Richard Walton.
And I'm Kristen Foster.
And today we're going to talk about three major issues, the prison board and what's going on there. Judicial elections, something that a lot of people don't pay much attention to sometimes. And sometimes it's just plain, oh, I don't know what's happening. And then thirdly, we'll talk about some work we're doing here at Get Loud, Arkansas to help you get prepared for the upcoming primary election.
Yeah, so we're going to start off today talking about the ongoing drama that's been happening with the state prison system and more specifically the board that's responsible for overseeing the prison system. Now, they were a while back asked to put more inmates into some prisons that they felt were already overcrowded, and they denied Governor Sanders' request for that. And it has turned into a lot of drama. A lot has happened. But most recently we saw some appointments and some resignations. What is going on with all this, Joyce?
I tell you, I can understand why the average person out there is asking that question. What is going on with this? Well, as it turns out, we do seem to have a conflict between what's in the Constitution, because the Constitution says that it is the board of directors of the prison system who should determine who is going to be the executive director, so to speak. But the governor decided that she wanted to appoint somebody else. It turned out we had passed a law. I shouldn't say we, I'm no longer there, am I? The legislature had passed a law that gave that power to the governor. And that's in conflict with the Constitution. We can't just pass a law and override the Constitution. So this is what led to all of the backfire and the headwinds and the fighting, I guess is what you would probably call it. But as it turned out, when they went to court to try to resolve this, the court said that indeed that power does lie with the board to make that determination. And as it turned out, like a lot of things, the fighting just kept going. And recently you might have seen that the board hired somebody themselves to be that director. And that director, as of yesterday, has now resigned because there's still so much conflict. This is not all that unusual, but this one I think could have been solved had we just followed the Constitution and not try to make a law to override the Constitution.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. And this is something, one of the things we try to do in Get Loud Arkansas is educate a little bit. And if this in any way seems confusing, I understand that, but just know it's all about seemingly not having followed the process.
Right. We're going to talk more here in a little bit about how people's vote can influence the criminal justice system. But first, I want to talk to Richard a little bit because before you came to work with Get Loud, you have had a career working in the Cummins unit, right,
Yes,
in the prison system, and for quite a long time. So you know a lot better than we do about the real life implications of these decisions. These are all happening, like getting played out in the media and in press conferences. But there are people who are inmates, but who are also working inside the prisons that have to deal with the real world consequences of these decisions. So what is that like when things like this are happening?
Well, first of all, it's already a tough job, but when you want to add more people to, which a lot of units, it's already publicly known, a lot of short staff. I mean, it's going to be difficult. Like I said, it makes a tough job suffer, and you're already outnumbered sometimes. Maybe being on post, it might be me and another person. It might be, I have 70 on one side, 70 on the other side. So, I think it makes a dangerous job more dangerous. So,
And
that's why.
does it also make it more dangerous for people who are locked up?
Yes, as well, because our number one duty is to secure them. So, I mean, there's only so many sets of eyes. You're not going to see everything nobody does anywhere, any prison. You do the best you can, but it definitely won't help bringing more inmates in when you're already outnumbered.
Right. I mean, it's difficult if you're like on a family get together where there's too many people crammed into one house. You can start to wear each other out in the best circumstances, but you take a very difficult, challenging situation, challenging environment anyway, and then you put it over capacity and then push more people when it's already over capacity. I mean, it just seems like a recipe for for some really bad problems.
Yeah, and a lot of, most of the units are doing the best they can with what they have, so,
And the other thing you probably should know, just in general out here, is that when we talk about more beds, we're talking about 1,000 more beds. And Arkansas is in the top 3, I think at the very top, in the rate at which we are growing our prison system, locking up people. And I so wish we would, and because we could look to what some other states are doing, what some other countries are doing, because Arkansas is such a small state. Why would we end up with this many people locked up? So we really need to rethink how we are doing what we call criminal justice in our country.
most definitely,
Yeah.
most definitely, because more prisons is definitely not there, so.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah, when we say that, I want people to know, to just say more prison beds is not the answer. We also need to talk about what the answer could possibly be.
Yes.
And then we start way back at the beginning of a child's life and thinking about maybe investing in the growth of families and children. We wouldn't end up at this point. Well, we have other stuff to talk about.
We do, and it relates to this as well, because like I said, your vote, you can't really do a lot in voting to change what's happening on the prison board right this minute. But coming up very soon, we have elections that are going to include a lot of judicial elections. But some of it I think is a little confusing, because I've been looking at sample ballots, and when you look, like there's one race that's statewide that's for the Chief Justice position on the state Supreme Court. But pretty much everybody on the ballot is, like, it already says they're a justice.
Yes.
So what is, like, for most people, I think you're going to walk in, you're going to be like, why am I having to pick from, like, 3 justices
That are already
and one other
justices.
person who's not a justice to pick for a justice position? Like, why are they all running for the same position? So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. For example, if you were to look at anybody who's running for office and they have a title, people love using that title to remind you. The idea is to try to remind you, look, I've already been doing some of this work. And then if that's the case, what I always would do, like when I ran for the Senate, or I was running for re-election, senators were telling you, if they're telling you they've already done something, you could actually go look up, oh, so what have you actually done? But that is what's there. People want to send a signal about some of the experiences that they have. And in this race, where you have 4 people running for the Supreme Court Justice. The chief. And there's only one chief and everybody else is a justice. But folks want to have that position. What you need to do is recognize that somebody's going to win, and you need to not just be taken over by the fact that it has chief in front of it, or if it has justice in front of it. Go look up these people and see what they are about. That really matters. And I know sometimes you go, well, how do I look it up? It is confusing. How do I find it? And there's some really good sources out there. And we do what we can to have some information out there. But one really good, impartial, and we're impartial too, but one really good is the University of Arkansas Exchange. It is an excellent information to tell you something about. But then there is another race, as you mentioned, that's position 2. Everybody who runs for the Supreme Court runs in a fully statewide race. But there are only 2 people in the position 2. And one of them is from Texarkana, from southern part of the state. Another one is either from Northwest Arkansas or here. So you can see how they might be spread around. But there's a chance here, and there's a chance here we could even make some history. We're in Black History Month. And there for the first time, what's happening?
It's really interesting. I mean, maybe not the first time we've seen some inspiring campaigns for someone to be the first Black elected official for a statewide office. I know we saw your campaign in 2020 that was very inspiring, and we've seen others. But right now, there is, in this Supreme Court position 2 race, there is a candidate, Carlton Jones, that if he were to win, he would be the first statewide elected Black official, Black Supreme Court justice, but also just statewide elected person. And we don't endorse or oppose any candidates, of course, but it is an interesting thought during Black History Month, the idea that Black history could be being made now with us, like here, like, you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes, and the other thing to consider, When I ran for office, had I won, that would have made history because it would have been the first time we would have had a black person to represent our district. And it would have been the first time a black person had been elected, period, to represent Arkansas in Washington since what we call the Reconstruction, after slavery, when blacks got a lot of rights. That's what the Reconstruction is about. Last night, I was just watching this program about the southern states and what happened after slavery, because it was a good thing about black history and so forth. And there were folks who were elected black folks who were elected after the Reconstruction. But Arkansas is the only one of the southern states, the states that had slaves. Arkansas is the only one that's never elected a black person to a statewide election or to Senate, U.S. Senate, or the Congress period. So that's why we bring up that this is a good connection. We had an opportunity in Black History Month to make a decision. You make your own, but we could elect for the first time a person at the statewide level in Arkansas. That's amazing. And as it turns out, you can go to Get Black Arkansas's website and see all kind of information about how to get some of this done.
Right, absolutely.
Isn't that wonderful about all the judicial elections?
It's so exciting. And judicial elections, it's not just these two Supreme Court races. That's all the way down to your local district court, your circuit court. You're going to see these on the ballot, and we're going to talk here in just a second about what Get Loud's going to be out doing to help people find their sample ballots and get prepared. Like I said previously, we talk about these issues and we talk about candidates to help people understand what to expect when they go out and see folks. We are a nonprofit organization. We never endorse or oppose any candidates. We just want people to get out and vote. We're not going to tell you how to vote or who to vote for, but just make sure you get out there and make your voice heard. And so, Richard, what can you talk about what we're going to be doing on Super Tuesday, March 5th, the biggest election day for the primaries and judicial elections in Arkansas? You've been working really hard. The rest of our team's been working really hard to make sure folks are informed. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, we're working on a big project for Super Tuesday. We plan on having different organizations at polls everywhere in the state and in different counties. And we're going to be there with sample ballots. We're going to have an exit survey. We're going to have people there because I know it's going to be some people's first time voting. We're looking forward to a lot of young voters coming out. And I know I would have appreciated having a sample ballot and somebody there to help me walk through my first time voting. So we've got a lot of good things going on, and look forward to seeing me or somebody else from a different organization trying to help you on Super Tuesday.
Yeah, show up. You might see Joyce Elliott out there with us.
I'm going to be somewhere. You never know.
I know you'll be out getting out the vote. You always are.
Out there because this is such an exciting time.
Yes.
I just remember, Richard, I remember meeting you when you were voting for the first time, and we could hardly contain ourselves because you might think all these positions, like look at the chief justice candidates or anybody else and everybody that's running, like, well, what does it matter? Every single thing that we've talked about today, every single one of them, goes back to whether or not you vote, because somebody will vote for everything that's going to happen to you in your life.
Yeah.
And you should be a part of that through voting. And we're trying to do our part to make sure we are positioning you to get to the polls.
Yes, y'all were there at the library, but let me tell you,
that was where
the
you
walk in now, you by yourself, but like I say, the first time I was a little anxious, a little nervous. I would have appreciated having a sample ballot and stuff because when I got in there, I was like, whoa, this is going to take a second. Okay, let me read this and see what's going on.
Yeah, a lot of people go in, especially for these primary elections, they know they're going to go in and vote on their presidential pick for their party, but they don't necessarily expect to see all these other things down the ballot. And so they may have local primaries for, justice of the peace races. They may have school board elections on their ballot. A lot of them are going to have, everybody in the state's going to have these Supreme Court justice races, but then the local judicial races as well, and those matter. I mean, those judges have a lot of input. I know, like where I live, we had an issue, and one of the judges who's not running for re-election that didn't want to assign public defenders to people. That has a huge impact on the outcome of their lives and their case, you know what I mean? And so, who we elect to be in that role will influence a lot of people's lives.
Yeah, we definitely need to get people back to realizing how important these local elections are.
Right,
Yes.
right. Yes, we always stress that is the most local of elections you should start with and pay attention because there's a lot going on locally.
And that-
Anything else? Go ahead.
And that's what's going to affect you the most. So.
You have anything else you need to talk about today? Or we
I
closing
think
this?
we are good to go. I'm so glad to sit here and talk with you about this. And I hope that people, as they watch, will send us questions, let us know the topics you want to hear about.
Right.
Let us know what you want Joyce to come in here and speak truth to power about next.
Yes. And so we hope you have a great weekend. We hope you continue to educate yourself. Let us know how we can help you. And we will see you next time when we're ready to speak more truth to power.